And when I started to think about everything that I was doing, I started to realize that I was doing everything for everyone, but I was never doing anything for myself. And I don't know how many of you are in that situation, have experienced it before, where you're living for other things and for other people, and you always come last on the list. And by the time it comes to your turn, there's nothing to give again.
This is the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners looking for cool online tools, apps and strategies to make business easy online. My name is Nick Cree and I'm your host. Each episode features a guest expert demystifying the online universe, sharing inspirational ideas and providing tested real-world strategies to help you get the most of what's available online to grow your business today. Don't be a slave to your business, get your business working for you. Subscribe now and get some great content and ideas for you and your business today. All right, well, that brings us to the session tonight, which I'm sort of been looking forward to. And we have Tosan Jemide, and we only just met on LinkedIn fairly recently, and loved his story. And we ended up sort of connecting on that messenger, and I sort of thinking, I need to chat to this guy. He's had an interesting lifestyle. So that was how we ended up talking and how he's ended up here today. So today's going to be talking about from breakthrough to success, a better way to run your business. In fact, I won't even introduce him and tell his story, because I know that he's going to tell his story as well. But he's been through burnout and he's come through the other side, and he's got some really good insights to share with others as well. So let's put your hands together. Welcome to the stage, Tosan Jamade.
Thank you so much.
So Tosan, let's introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and where you've come from.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for being here as well. My name is Tosan Jamade. I am a restorative leadership architect. Do you know that so many leaders are running on empty? They're burnt out, disconnected from their teams. I help leaders find clarity and regain their presence so that they can stay human and just continue to be grounded. I'm all about being grounded and being human. For so long, I couldn't talk about my burnout experience. I was afraid that people would look at me funny and think he's such a failure. Because in the leadership space, there's an expectation that leaders are broad shoulders, they do everything for everyone, carry everybody, solve all the problems. That's why they are leaders. So coming out to express the fact that I wasn't feeling like I was leading was a bit of a problem for me. So I couldn't say anything for a long time until I started to understand that, if I was ever going to get out of it, I needed to regain my presence. So essentially, I look out for leaders, I advocate for leaders in a space where there's so much silence about being present, where performance is usually driven because you have to show that you're good, you have to show that you're a great leader, and your performance is 100%. So I carry that burden for leaders and entrepreneurs because I've won the stripes. I've been in that space, I've been burnt out, and I am here to say to you guys today that you need to be mindful about running your business and be very careful about minding yourself and making an intentional effort to stay present. Now, in Australia here, the stats tell us in 2023 that up to 44% of leaders experience burnout. There was a national survey by Michelle McQuaid of the Wellbeing Lab that also said 7 out of 10 leaders said they were feeling burnt out. Those are huge numbers. Now, burnout isn't just fatigue. Earlier on, Nick was saying, when last did you take a holiday? And I was like laughing in my chair. It's not about a holiday. If you do get burnt out, a holiday doesn't cure it. Time out doesn't cure burnout. Where you go deep into burnout, what you need is a lifestyle change. It's not just about driving, wanting to be productive and wanting to perform. It's more about your joy, your health. That's what burnout does. It steals your joy. And I remember looking back at who I was. I was one of those per excellence leader. Everything had to be perfect. I would choose perfection over progress. I would choose performance over presence. I needed to show my team that I was the role model in everything that I did. And in so many ways, I couldn't help myself. That was what I was taught. That was the narrative I grew into being a leader. You hold the fort. If you squeak, I used to tell myself jokingly, that was my mantra, if you squeak, you're weak. Hey, you can't squeak. Yeah, shush. Brace up. Suck it in. The masks that I wore were huge, significantly huge. I would show up in the office, not me inside, but I had to show up like everything was okay. Now, I looked at all the situations that I'd been through over and over again, and one of the things that I found out that I struggled so much in my personal life as well. Went through divorce, had issues with my kids at some point, and I brought all that to work. But of course, that's not work related, but it's the same heart that I work with at work that is broken at home. So how do I separate my heart and be one person at home and be one person at work? It was difficult. It was very difficult for me. And one of the things that sorry, 1 second. One of the other things that I started to realize over time, I started to notice that my joy was stolen. I was tired. I was just endlessly tired. There were signs that I couldn't understand, but I just kept performing until one evening, as usual, I would stay late in the office. You know, that was it was a normal thing to stay late in the office and finish up. You're the leader, you go last. And that evening, I stayed in the office, sat on my desk, trying to review my reports for the day. I was restless. I was very listless. I couldn't focus. Went on a walk, took fresh air, came back. I couldn't do anything. And I eventually sat down office was quiet, it was dead silent. And, I had a beautiful office. I had a shea lounge, purple. Purple is my favorite color, if you haven't noticed. And I had a beautiful coffee table. I had really nice books. So I always used to go there and chill, relax. And for some reason, I started to see a different me through my mirror that day. I had this beautiful, ornate, gold-gilded mirror right in front of my desk. And that mirror normally used to tell me, you look good today. Yeah, love it. That day, the mirror told me a different thing because I couldn't recognize myself. That day, I just couldn't comprehend who I saw. I looked lost. My eyes looked totally sunken. I felt my heart was out of my body. And I broke that day. I was successful. I was running a big business. I had about 300 people in my bakery that I employed. I had a board that I reported to. I had investors. And figures were good. But I was so overextended. I didn't take care of myself. And I started to slowly break. And that day was the breaking point for me where I saw that it wasn't sustainable what I was doing. That I call my mirror moment. And that mirror moment taught me so many things. So many things. When I left the office that day, I started to see I felt a strong sense of shame. I felt like I'd failed because I'd put so much expectations on myself. And so many people expected so much from me. I felt empty because I didn't feel I was delivering what I was supposed to deliver. I started to show signs of irritability. I was constantly tired. I had headaches. I was losing sleep. I started to withdraw. I didn't want to take calls anymore. I couldn't really understand what was happening. And when I started to think about everything that I was doing, I started to realize that I was doing everything for everyone, but I was never doing anything for myself. I don't know how many of you are in that situation, have experienced it before, where you're living for other things and for other people, and you always come last on the list. And by the time it comes to your turn, there's nothing to give again. So bottom line is that you never get the opportunity to look after yourself. That whole experience started to take me back into baking, but this time not baking as a business. I started using baking as a reflective tool. And in that process, I started to discover that I would reflect, resolve, and reconnect during my baking. And that's how I discovered a tool that I call my REWIRE code, which I'll explain to you later. But the REWIRE code was the one thing that at that point in time helped me to process things in a sensible, logical, unsentimental way. I started to think from start, go through a process and finish it in a conclusive way and act on it. That is what the REWIRE code did for me. Now, if you're thinking about spotting your early signs, you need to start thinking about your constant fatigue and tiredness. You need to start thinking about your irritability. You need to start thinking about how you are sleeping. You need to start thinking about, your withdrawal symptoms. Are you socializing? Anxiety? Just there's so many things that you need to start looking at, and if they're there, then you need to start addressing them. Now, that turning point for me started with that REWIRE code, and the REWIRE code, it took me a long time to get to this point where I'm able to explain it to you. I didn't just wake up overnight and say, yes, the REWIRE code. No, I started to do certain things, and I started observing what's happening here. What are you doing? What happens when you do it? What's the outcome? What's your thought process? What's the flow? And that started to make me take notes and observe. And, in all my development of that whole methodology, I was reflecting. I used to embrace myself a lot more. I would walk through processes. I would generally integrate a lot of things and adapt. I was looking at restoration in a whole big picture. And bottom line is, I always wanted to emerge and come out on the other end. So that took me into that practical process of reflect. Reflect really meant that I would sit down and try to figure out what it is that I'm going through. I'm feeling like this. Why am I feeling like this? Or first of all, how am I feeling? A lot of times we avoid this topic. I have a headache. Oh, I'm fine, I'll be good. Yeah, go on, you'll be good. And a lot of times, because we have that syndrome of wanting to be strong, we never really admit it to ourselves. So I started to admit and own my feelings. There was a sense of awareness that I had to develop. Where are you? What do you carry? What's in your heart? How does it feel? And that sort of started to reset me. That is what I call reflect and reset. I do it every single day. I repeat it as many times. Everything that I'm doing, the first thing I'm doing is awareness. Where are you? How are you? What are you feeling? And then that takes me into, of course, if I'm feeling bad, I own it. And then that takes me into the next step, which is resolve. And in resolving, I'm asking myself, how else can I reframe this? For example, when I started to feel like I was a complete failure, that I was a loser, I actually started to reframe it saying, hang on a minute. Failure is actually compost for new beginnings. Failure is compost or fertilizer for many things that can come out of what you've learned. So I started learning to reframe. And instead of holding on to the thing that weighs me down all the time, I started to reframe. And that's what resolve does. We have to think about a different perspective. There's always a flip side to the coin. We can't just hang on to the negative narrative that tells you you're failing or you're doing this or this is not happening. No, what if? And that what if started to change my mindset. It's all in the mind. Now that mindset, when you change it, then it helps you reconnect. So the third process is reconnecting, because you lose yourself in the process. And then when you reframe it, it helps you reconnect with yourself. You're back in touch with your senses. You feel a sense of, I belong to myself again. And not just to yourself, but it also helps you reconnect with people around you, your team, your family. Do you know when you're in a bad place, you're irritable, you're snappy, you're short-tempered, walking on ice, everyone's afraid to come to you, dad's in a bad mood, the boss is not too good today, just stay away. Yeah, that's what happens. So we have to find a way to go back to those people and make connections, let them understand where we've been, what we're dealing with, and how we sort of, you don't have to go into full details, but find a way to mend those fences and start to restore the relationships. So essentially, I've got a 3-step process that is reflect, resolve, and reconnect. This is something that you have to do on a daily basis, as many times as you can. And this has helped me so much rewire my mindset, rewire my lifestyle, rewire my relationships, rewire my approach to business, and rewire even the things that are coming in the future. On a large scale, I would say that as an entrepreneur, you go through a lot of changes. It's a lonely journey. There are many things that you can't talk to anyone about, but you need to find ways to sort of strap yourself in places where you can talk to yourself and you can hash out some of these things, talking about what you're dealing with. Now, this whole experience, it wasn't pretty when it was happening to me. It birthed the new me, and I'm so thankful for it. I have evolved from who I was before into a new version of me, and that is what I say I reframed. I didn't sit in that place where I felt I was a failure. I had to reframe it, and consistently and persistently reframing and reframing and reframing, you begin to see the positive, you begin to see the good that can come out of whatever challenges you're dealing with. Now, what has come out of me? I moved to Australia. I was actually in Nigeria. When I was moving to Australia, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just wanted to take a break. First year, I didn't do anything. I took a sabbatical, and right now, I found a new business. And I'm doing what I enjoy doing, like really well, helping leaders like me, talking to people who don't really know what to do, having conversations and advocating for more voices in this space where there's so much silence. It's almost like a stigma, if you come out and say, I'm struggling, I feel like I'm failing. We don't celebrate failure. Failure is not something that anybody comes out to talk about. You know, we only celebrate good performance. So if you're not performing, then you generally just keep quiet, even if you're dying. And that is not the humanity that we should be practicing. So it has brought me to this place where I can speak, I can advocate for burnout, for leaders who are in that same space. They're my tribe. I feel the pain and I understand how it is. That is something that I have learned. Out of it has come a book, which is almost going to press, and it's called Leader, Your Team Needs You, and it's teaching you how to slow down, mix well, and lead better. And I've also integrated the REWIRE code. I've just explained that code to you very sketchily. It goes quite deep. And that has helped me reconnect with myself over and over again. Now, my takeaway for you guys is that leadership wellness is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's an absolute necessity. You can't be successful if you don't have it. And you can't have it if you're not mindful of keeping it. Keeping it means you need to begin to practice presence over performance. While we're happy for performance, you need to be in that space where you're present with yourself and how you're feeling and what's going on in your life and what's happening in your business and how you can reframe and how you can resolve and how you can reconnect. Those are key things that would help you continue to be sustainable as a leader and build your business and continue to grow. Preventing burnout, obviously, is what I advocate for. Now, you don't want to be burnt out. I think Aldrin was saying, I get burnt out many times over and over again. I'd like to have a conversation with you. When I got burnt out, it took me years to get out of it. I struggled so much. So burnout is not the kind of thing you just get out of. It takes a while to build resilience and build that whole framework around being able to pull yourself out. It's a complete lifestyle change. And my takeaway for you today is you need to find strength in your humanity. Not in your mask, not in performance. Just stay human and be present in everything that you do, because it is only through being human and present that you can actually identify what you're dealing with and you can conquer it. Thank you very much for listening to me today. If you have any questions, comments, anything I can address today.
Fabulous. Excellent. So I'm thinking that this is a topic here that we could open the floor up on, because we're in a room full of entrepreneurs, I think, and business people. And there are, I would imagine, and maybe I'm making it up, that there is some aspects of wanting to throw in the towel. And I think so. One of the, what would you say, one of the comments that I hear the most is from entrepreneurs and people that are saying, you know what, it'd be easier if I just went and got a job, thinking that that's going to be the No one here has thought of that at all, have they? So So let's just open up the floor, and I think that probably good opportunity to ask some questions, but also some good opportunity to share some experience about what you think about your experience in terms of burnout, and maybe sort of heading towards that as well. And I can start the ball rolling by just talking about my Christmases were generally where I spent the first week on the couch. And the whole year would go through, it would get to the end of the year. I would pack up our, this is when I was living in Wellington, and pack up our minivan that we had. The kids would go in, the cat would go in, the month-long sort of holidays, usually 2 to 3 weeks, all the packing would go in. And then we'd put all the Christmas presents around us as well, because we were going up there for Christmas. And yes, I did say the cat. The cat did travel up with us as well too. It was quite happy to in the vehicle, uncaged as well. And then I would spend my first week, as soon as I got up there, first week on the couch, and my body would just shut down, and I would get like flu-like symptoms. But it'd be a week of just lying on the couch there at my parents' house, and my family were just off doing whatever it was. I was just on the couch. So I had sort of these burnout moments every year, always at the end of the year. Is that normal?
So that's absolutely perfectly normal. The other extension to burnout is it's not just a physical fatigue, exhaustion. There is an element of mental and emotional fatigue that comes with burnout as well. So I usually say to people, if you're tired and you can get rest for 1 week and your body feels back, you were not burnt out. If you get rest and you still feel mentally fatigued, you're just totally out of your body. So that's what real burnout does.
That was exactly how it was. It took me sort of most of the holiday to recover from all of
Yeah.
that. And sometimes I didn't look forward to going back to work. Other times it was okay. So, so yes. All right, we've got Aldrin with your hand up. The burnout queen by the sound of it.
Yes, that's my second name now.
Yeah.
Years working as a journalist, I had a lifestyle of high adrenaline. It was go, 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 constant deadlines. And so what would happen is it'd be go, 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 and then crash. And I remember one life coach many years ago said, oh, you're addicted to adrenaline, which I found very interesting. And often it would show up as sickness. I would often just get sick when I was working as a journalist. And usually it would be some kind of cold, or I'd get some sort of throat infection, which is, of course, all around speaking up. And over the years, I've learned to practice presence in many different ways. And it's a lots of things that I do that help me now to, I still have my down moments, but I find that I'm able to come through it a lot quicker than I ever used to. Whereas back in the day, I'd be out for a long time. So my question to you is around, what are some practices that you have in your life to help stay present for yourself, or to help, because I think it's kind of like going to the gym, right? It's not like you just do one thing and you're sorted. It's an ongoing practice. What do you do?
So I've got something that I use as strength, right? And it's a 3-pronged thing where I find strength in being present. Now, it's easy, but it's not as easy, because being present on its own, if we were to interpret it, means you come as you are. In that moment, you're who you are, and you don't really care what anybody has to say or any opinions about that particular position you've taken, because that's where you are. So a lot of times, what I found that over time, people that I'm close to, my loved ones, have sort of felt I failed them. I changed because I started to set more boundaries about, you know what, I don't do this anymore. I don't overextend. If I'm tired, I don't say yes when I want to say no. So that is where I find strength from. One of the key areas start with. Secondly, I find strength from being confrontational. Now, when I say confrontational, I'm not saying get into fisticuffs or anything. I'm just saying, you know, we're too civilized in this world. A lot of times we're taught to be too civilized, avoid any, you don't have to talk about it, let it slide. Just let it go. It's not important. No biggie. No, it is a biggie. Because while you let it slide in the open, you've held it in there like it hurts you, or you don't like it, but you can't really, you're not expressing yourself. So I find strength in confronting and taking on, no avoidance anymore. It is what it is. If I don't like it, I'm saying it as it is. In a nice possible way, but that's what it is. No avoidance. And then lastly, I find strength in communication. So, how we say, when we say, even if we decide to say, is so critical to our mindsets and our being able to own the things that we're dealing with. When I started practicing these three things, I saw that I felt like I owned my life more. I didn't owe anybody any expense. It didn't mean that I wasn't nice anymore, but it just meant that, you know what? I've taken control over my life and people don't rule me anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think there's a strong people pleaser probably under most people that have had burnout.
Yeah.
They're constantly giving.
Yeah.
Learning to say no, I think, is a huge one. What about some self-care practices? Like, do you exercise? Do you meditate? Do you have a morning routine?
So I do my yoga, and then I do a lot of walks, but I bake and I cook. I find baking and cooking very therapeutic. That's the space where most of the time I'm in my quiet bubble and I'm processing things that are happening in my life. And there's when I'm baking, all the dopamine and the good feeling, everything comes out, so it just makes me like da 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 da. So yeah, that's what I do for self-care. And
Cooking
then
is
of course I spend a lot of time with family. I think family is also key. If you've got loved ones, if you do have good relationships, friends, be around people who make you laugh, who give you joy, who you can eat with and have a drink with. That's really essential.
some family members make you cry, so I guess it depends on
Stay away from them.
being creative though is a great thing also to help overcome depression. So being creative with cooking or artwork.
Yeah, anything creative, gardening, fashion, anything creative. Yeah.
Yeah. Yoga is great because you get the breath work in as well. It's
Yeah.
brilliant. I love
Yeah.
yoga as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Fantastic.
Fabulous. So we've got Paul.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Tosan.
Hi, Paul.
Whoops.
Thanks.
We're unmuted. Look, thank you. I can relate to a lot of what you said, and I'm sure many people here can also do the same. You talked about progress against perfection, that you set previously high standards. I would agree. I similarly suffered from that to an extreme. But the other thing was, in my case, was pride, and I suspect you were the same. I wanted to do what I was doing, those long, ridiculous hours at extreme expense to my family, because I believed I could do what nobody else would be willing to do. And in my case, and again, I suspect yours, it wasn't just in one role. It's obviously me. I'm the issue, not the particular role. So what my question is probably an extension of Aldwin's question. So I identified two different things there, the progress against perfection and also personal pride. So how did you actually let go of those two so that you could then take on the more mellowed approach that you did the best, but you didn't go to such extremes? So can you talk us through the adjustment that you had to come to terms with, which was to, as I say, let go of the pride and similarly let go perhaps of the perfection?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Amazing question. I think it's all about being able to dig deep into your heart and understanding what's happening to you. Now, bottom line is, if you're struggling that much where your performance and your overextension is actually becoming a challenge in your life where it's pulling you down, you need to be able to find that place where, yes, I need to perform, but I need to be alive to perform. So it becomes maybe I had my burnout really, really bad, and those mental health, those physical health, I felt it was like one of my lowest ebbs in life. And when I started to compare apples for apples and pears for pears, it was a case of choose your battles. Do you want to be alive? Do you want to stay sane? Or you want to keep performing and go crazy? And I chose to be alive. I chose to be sane. And that sort of started to make me understand that, hey, you can't conquer the world. Do what you can and then just chill. Take a break. Come back to it. Whatever you finish, you don't finish now, come back to it tomorrow. The world's not a perfect world. You won't get it right all the time. And it's okay. And sometimes what you think is imperfect, other people look at it, Paul, and say, wow, that's so beautiful. How did you do this? And there you're killing yourself and saying, I messed it up. So it's all about reframing and being able to just look on the other side and see what goodies you can work with as against sticking to that lane where you're continually overextending yourself.
Can you give us some practical things you did? So, for instance, you obviously were working long hours,
Yeah.
especially in a baking environment with 300 staff. So, were you working 7 days a week? Were you working 12 hours a day? And then did you say, all right, I'm going to cut it back to 10 hours and I'll only do 6 days a week? Or can you give us some parameters around some of the changes you made?
Thanks, Paul, for that. For example, I was working 7 days a week. My factory was a bread factory that ran 24 hours, and there were 2 cycles, 2 shifts. There was a night shift, there was a day shift, and it was nonstop. So I more or less had to be available at almost every time. At some point, when I saw that I was actually cracking, I started to pull back on certain things. Mondays, I would go into the office. Then I would stay home on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Because Mondays were critical. We needed to have our weekly meetings. We needed to get the plans for the week going. I needed to do my approvals and everything, and weekly budgeting and blah, 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 blah. So Mondays were critical, but Tuesdays were not so critical. And Wednesdays sometimes were even less critical. So I stopped going in physically on those 2 days. And I started to find more time to do other things, like catch up with, you know, I got sucked up in work so badly that I didn't have any other life. So I started catching up with the rest of my life, my old friends, my hobbies. I love gardening. I started doing more gardening and spending time in the garden on the days where I'm at home. So what I would suggest, if you run a business and you can afford to, this thing about being a perfectionist it's a real killer, because you think if you don't do it, it's not going to be okay. But you just have to, at some point, pull back a bit and trust people to do it, encourage them, and even when they don't do it to the standard you expect, still encourage them and continue to encourage them. It gets to a point where they actually learn, and you can sit back and enjoy yourself more. Is that helpful?
All right. So,
Yes, thank
perfect.
you.
Thanks, Paul. I've got a question, Tosan, and that's also about dealing with other people's expectations. Like when you've set up an environment where you've got a role to play, people expect you there to play the role, and and if you sort of pull back from that and are no longer doing that. So let's say, for instance, those meetings that you run, the team meetings, if you're no longer doing that, who's going to do it? And how do you deal with those expectations that people think that you're the person that's performing? It's probably in your own head that you think that you need to be performing it, but nevertheless there are still those expectations there.
Okay, let me try and use an analogy. You've got a house, and that house runs on a certain voltage in terms of power. It has a capacity. If you're the leader, you have a capacity. Now, for me, what's more important is, are you exceeding your capacity or not? Now, if you're exceeding your capacity, then that whole structure is wrong. You need to pull it out and restructure in such a way that your capacity is not overloaded, otherwise you're going to crumble. So if you're doing more things that you can actually do, you have to pull back, look for how to delegate, employ more people, and shed some of that load so that you can breathe and survive. That's the way I see it. So it's more about being able to set a structure in place that is realistic in your business. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're doing everything. Now we're trying to save money sometimes, but the question is, at what cost? And I guess people have to decide that for themselves. But I learned over time that, when you pull back, things still run. You delegate, trust people more to do things the way you do, sometimes in a different way. And that's where diversity comes in. People start doing things in their own way, and it still works.
And so that's dropping the perfection, because the way you do it is maybe it's not perfect.
So that's the thing about, if you're a perfectionist, it will always be that way. And there's so many perfect ways to do things, but it's a mindset thing where you think your way is the way or the highway. But there are many other talented people There are many other ways to scale, so you just need to let people with diverse talents come in and do different things.
Actually, there's an interesting book that I was going to say reading, but I'm not. I'm listening
Yeah,
to it, called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And he was talking about that whole delegation thing. He said people are delegating the wrong way. They're delegating off tasks, whereas as an entrepreneur or a business owner, what you should be delegating is your time. And so what you end up employing are the things that you are doing that are initially sort of low value tasks that you end up doing. But if you hire someone in to do those low value things, it's not that you've hired them in to do a job. You've actually hired them in to buy back your time. So now you've got the time available to you that you were spending on these things to now go and invest in other things, whether that be in the business, whether it be in the garden, or whatever it is. But your hiring strategy is for your time. It's not for productivity.
correct. So I take that a notch higher. Now, a lot of times, entrepreneurs who are in leadership roles end up being managers rather than leaders. And they're doing the micromanagement and the daily running of the business. And that sort of begins to blind side them because their visionaries, they need to be able to have a focus and drive the business into growth, have new things and innovations coming up. But if you're doing the daily grind, you're the manager, you're the customer service, you're over accounts, you're doing how much else can you do? So I think that that perspective definitely is what I advocate for. Look for ways to push, especially in the areas where you're not strong. So one of the things, if you're trying to build a team, you're asking yourself, where are my strengths? So I'm good at the creative bit, but I'm not really good at marketing. I'm not good at, setting up accounting systems. So I need to be looking for people who can join the team to help me do that, either on a part-time or full-time basis.
All right. So any other questions or comments or
Nick,
looking for advice?
are you
Yeah.
there, Nick?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just picking up on your comment about delegating tasks versus delegating time. Absolutely. But could I try and use another word and see if I just think this works for me anyway. Instead of delegating tasks or time, what about delegating responsibility? And where I'm coming from by that is you can delegate a task, but if you've still got the responsibility for it, you'll be overseeing it, you'll be checking it. And I know I was guilty of that. Whereas if I had delegated not only the task, but to that person responsibility for it, then I would feel a great weight off my shoulders onto theirs. And I think that I know I found helpful. Do you have any comments, or Tosan, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, where you're delegating responsibility, because ultimately it's the same concept of being able to find someone who has skills in the areas that you're not strong, and you can actually trust them to be the experts in quotes and say, you know what, that's your responsibility, do it, and do it to the end. I want to know what happens at the end of it. And that's all. So you're not the implementer there, you're just the overseer. So that takes the burden off you. Absolutely.
So in fact, another way of looking at it is you're delegating the outcome or the result, not the process to get there.
Yeah.
I recall, I mean, if I want to take what you're saying, I do recall now there were times where my staff would come and ask me, they need my input in doing X, Y, Z. I'm like, sorry, go do it. I'm not getting involved in this, because that's where you start getting overextended and burnt out. You have a suggestion here, you have an idea there, you have an input there, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you're doing so many things at the same time. So until you start pulling back and letting, staff do certain things and taking responsibility, like you said, Paul, then you still be in that same deep end.
Thank you.
Fabulous, excellent. All right, well, I think we've sort of come to the end of it. This is one of these topics that I think we don't get to talk about very much, which is why I wanted you in here. Yet I think it's so important. I think it was Scott that said that how many people, Scott, that like a good sort of chunk or percentage of the people that you speak with or work with are victims or suffering from some form of burnout. So yeah, was that right, Scott?
Yeah, it's just from clinical experience, but I'd say about 15% of the population have got it or get it at some stage.
Yeah.
At least.
Those are the ones that you get to talk to. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Who say nothing.
Yeah. The other thing is, conventional medicine doesn't know how to, well, number one, how to diagnose it. Number two is how to treat it.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, it's a big problem.
True.
I'm seeing a lot of it.
Excellent.
Put it that way. I'm seeing a lot of it.
So how
All right, well,
how do you manage it when you notice it?
Well, yeah, it's meditation helps a lot.
Yeah.
Getting your mind empty, because that's the biggest problem. That's why they. But I look at it from a different point of view. Do you want me to go into it, or this is your show, brother? So
No.
I don't want to take it over.
I'd like to hear.
So post-traumatic stress disorder, which is the underlying problem for this.
Yeah.
It's burnout. So what's happening is it's the adrenal gland that sits above the kidneys, and it spits out our stress hormones. And those are three stress hormones: adrenaline, epinephrine, and cortisol. For these people, they just produce too much of it consistently. And what happens is they just can't stop. They just go. They push themselves physically to the point where they crash, where they physically crash.
Yeah.
And that drives them crazy, because they've got this subliminal fear that's always there. That it's like an imaginary tiger is always chasing them. And then when they physically crash, they can't combat that fear by doing things, which is what they've been doing.
Yeah.
They've been combating that fear by going and doing stuff. These people, they work like dogs. They can't help themselves. They just work. They can't stop. And yeah, so what was I going to say? So there's only two ways you can really, reverse it, not just manage it. Because another thing is a lot of people that have this can drink a lot of alcohol, or they smoke a lot of marijuana. Why? Because it's the only thing that slows them down.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that slows their mind down. So that they can become alcoholics, and they can become, prolific marijuana smokers. So there's two ways. There's two natural ways you can reverse this, and that's meditation. But you got to do a lot of it, because because the problem is that you got to slow this adrenal gland down, or Chinese herbal medicine. Chinese herbal medicine is fantastic at strengthening the adrenal gland, because the adrenal gland actually is a weird gland. It actually spits out these hormones more when it's under stress. But it does that for a reason, because they call it fight or flight. You get the hell out of there, or you fight. So, so that it does that on purpose. It spits more of these stress hormones out.
Yes.
So in Chinese medicine, we look at it as strengthening the adrenal gland, they're strengthening the kidney. And yeah, that's how they feel odd. After about a month, they feel odd because they actually feel calm for the first time in their life.
Correct. Amazing.
I didn't want to take your show over, brother. Well, you asked me.
No, that was good.
That was good way to I can relate to that. You know, I say that meditation is a thing of the mind, right?
Yeah.
And I think that even if you're not doing that, in quote, what is referred to as meditation in the way that a lot of people understand it, if you're going through, you know, a certain process in your mind about what you're dealing with, and you know, having a trajectory that is from start to finish and is going in a positive direction as against negative, I call that meditation as well.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's you know, we do about 6,000 thoughts a day. So
Yeah.
and you know, 5,999 of them are crap. So you might get one good thought a day.
Correct.
So yeah, trying to get rid of the monkey mind and force the working mind. So a good example is driving. Have you ever driven somewhere and you just all of a sudden you're there?
Yeah.
Like it was like, what happened? Whatever. I thought I was in the car and then all of a sudden I'm there. Well, that's the working mind.
Yeah.
That's the working mind. That's the automatic pilot. We know we have to do things. We overthink it. So that's the monkey mind. That's the
Yeah.
the monkey mind is the one that's always there. It's always, oh, you should have done this. You should have said that. You should have.
Yeah.
You should have went there. You should have. Why didn't you do this? Oh, they're going to say this to you. It's all
Absolutely.
rubbish. It's all rubbish. So yeah, the less you get rid of that monkey mind, the better, and then it helps to slow down this adrenal gland. It helps to calm your mind, calm the heart, calm the mind, calm the adrenal gland.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Scott. Good insights.
I yield.
Fabulous, excellent. All right, well, excellent discussions from all that. So look what you started there, Tosan.
Amazing.
No, that was fabulous. So I appreciate you coming on tonight and actually sort of talking about you know, what we can do to help to keep us more in tune, I think, which was sort of the message I get, is in tune with ourselves and really you know, sort of taking care of ourselves first before you know, sort of worrying about anything else. And sometimes it's having that awareness is probably more important, having that awareness to start with and then to make those changes. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you, Tosan?
So I've got my website, which is www.letsbakeit.com.au.
And that is now in chat.
Yeah, you can get my numbers from there. There's a clarity call. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And then I'm also sharing with you. Did you share the burnout? The burnout quiz is something that I always say, you know, people should try and do. And you know, if you're sort of in between or you're tending towards, you know, I'm happy to have a 30-minute conversation, clarity call with you.
All right, so I've dropped that burnout quiz into chat as well too, as well as your LinkedIn profile. So you want to connect on LinkedIn, That burnout quiz, we did pop it out earlier on in the week as well too. But who knows? Do the quiz, sort of see how you come up with it, and that might just guide you to a conversation with Tosan.
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right. So we do have a door prize tonight as well too, with our special way of drawing that. So tell us, what is the door prize?
So I'm offering, for whoever the winner is, I'm offering a free clarity call, and I would also throw in, depending on where the person is located, I would throw in 2 sessions of conversations around whatever burnout challenges they're dealing with at the particular point in time.
Fabulous. Yeah, you'd welcome people to fly in to you for that?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we can always do it online.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do
Fabulous.
it online.
All right. Well, let's bring up our wheel of names. All of our names are in this wheel of names, and we'll see who our lucky winner is. Remember, you've got to be in the room to win. So let's spin that wheel. Don't disappear just yet. All right, round it goes. Let's see who's the lucky winner of the non-burnout prize today. And Paul Kennedy, you are on a streak at the moment, aren't you?
So now, are you there, Nick?
Yes.
Now listen, this is getting a bit repetitive, and I'm beginning to feel guilty. So look,
Have you been winning too many times?
well, I just keep winning. So, and in fact, I won about 3 weeks ago, which was really excellent. And in fact, I've won several times, and I'd like to do what I've done previously. To be honest, I've got bundles on at the moment. I think somebody else could benefit from this. As much as I'd love to do it, Tosan, thank you. So I'm happy to put it back into the pool, and let's do it again.
Well, you've got the option then, Paul, to nominate someone or put it back in the pool.
Yeah.
What would you like?
No. Let's put it back in. I love seeing that wheel go around. Mind you, if my name comes out another 3 times in a row, I'll cave in and say, all right, I'll do it.
Well, to be fair, you've had sort of a few years of not winning anything, and that's all come at once. All right, let's spin the wheel again, see who our second chance winner is tonight. And it is, it's almost on the line. Wesley, are you in the room, Wesley? Let's have a look and see whether he's in the room. All right. I think Wesley sort of had to duck off early. All right, let's take Wesley out of the picture. Spin the wheel again. What, 3rd time lucky this time? This doesn't happen too often. And I could see Aldrin thinking it's edging towards her one, and it just didn't quite get there. All right, and our winner is Pete. Are you here, Pete?
Yes, I am.
You are fabulous. Actually, you've been on a bit of a streak as well too, haven't you?
That was like a couple of months ago, and when I spoke to those gentlemen, whoever I won, it was like, okay, we'll take 10% off, but it's a paid program, so you didn't really win that much.
Okay. Well, tonight, Tosan's gifted his time for it as well too.
I
That's not
appreciate
supposed to happen.
Congratulations, Pete.
Thank you.
And
all right, well,
congratulations, Paul. Very magnanimous of you to give it up to somebody else. I do really give kudos to that. Very thoughtful of you.
Well, look, thank you. Tomorrow I'll go out and buy a lotto ticket, and perhaps I won't do the same again.
Thanks, Paul.
Excellent. Well, we'll connect you up, Pete and Tosan, tomorrow by email. But feel free to connect up by LinkedIn as well, or whatever means as well. But yeah, we will connect you by email. All right. Look, really appreciate your coming on tonight, Tosan. Let's give Tosan a big round of a virtual applause for everything he shared tonight. And of course, this session will be up on the Smashgo YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. The link for that is now in chat. So now's a good time to save the chat, because the tools are in there, the links are in there. and all of Tosan's details are in there as well. If you know someone else that might be interested in tonight's episode, then send them along to the YouTube channel as well. Of course, we've got all the other past episodes in there, but this one in particular, if you think that that might be helpful or valuable to them. Facebook group, we're up there on Facebook, Business Owners Smashing It Online. And so join that if you're not a member of that. And all of these episodes are going up onto Spotify and Apple iTunes and all of the podcast platforms as well too. So pick your favorite one, and I would love you to subscribe to the platform as we're just getting that sort of up and running. Well, we have done sort of this year as well, and looking for the subscribers to grow there. Let's get us to #1 there so other people learn about this program as well too. All right, well, that's our session for tonight. As Rory mentioned before, he is the speaker for next week, Rory Kilmartin. He has got a very interesting process on archetypes, how to use archetypes in business. So these are sort of ancient archetypes. So I've done his program, fascinating stuff. And if you want to know sort of what I am a fox. If you want to find out what you are, go to the Relationship Archetypes website. Just type in archetypal relationships. You will see that he's got a quiz in there as well. So it would be really helpful to do the quiz before you come along next week to work out whether you're a gorilla, a fox, a wolf, or a sheep. And he's going to be talking about how that applies in business as well. So I know you'll enjoy that session next week as well. All right. Well, look, thanks very much, Tosan, once again for coming on to our show tonight and sharing with us. Thanks, everyone, for coming along. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Have a good night. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast. You can also find me on social media and online. Just search for Business Owners Smashing It Online and Nick Cree, spelled Nikree, all one word. If you like this and want to hear more, subscribe now. Until next time, don't be a slave to your business. Get your business working for you.